The nation of Israel, the elect of the nation of Israel, all right, whom are they so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and speckled Israelites, being Israelite foreigners, scattered across the four corners of the earth, including within America, Babylon the Great, the main place for our captivity, and we are the Most High Yahweh chosen people of the nation of Israel. So without further ado, as always, in the Lashon Kodash, being a holy tongue, as in the Paleo-Hebrew, being ancient Hebrew, and we give all praises, glory, infinite honor to my power, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom is the God of the living, Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai Baruch Wadash, which is our praise to the Heavenly Father Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, whom is our strength and our Redeemer, and our light and our salvation. In the same tongue, I'm utter Mashana Kabawadium, La Hasequanium, Shal, Gadawabakab, meaning double honors to the apostles and elder bishops, great millstone, and Shalom, honor salutations to Bayashad Awadah, meaning the house of David, all right, of the 1/3 of the nation of Israel, along with the rest of the 1/3 elect men, women, and children of Israel. Fellow servant Malak Rayab, back at it again with another prophetic update through the spirit of prophecy, being the testimony of our Lord and Savior, Hamashiach Yahushai, who the masters of the world ignorantly refer to Jesus Christ. And it's dealing with these protests, which are prophetic. All right, specifically the most recent protests that have been taking place, including the most recent one that took place. Just I reported here on the Forbes, platform under the politics section entitled "Anti-Trump Hands-Off Protest Planned," okay, in all 50 states today. What to know, all right? And the fact that they mentioned this plan is very interesting for the fact that, Elon had pointed out that
hundreds of protests nationwide today, and the goal is to stop
George Soros could very well be behind these nationwide protests that is currently occurring in all 50 states in America, to oppose Trump's policies and war provocations. All right, including individuals, protesting against him, his policies, war provocations, including the federal spending, the federal cuts rather that has been taking place under his administration through the Department of Government Efficiency, joint department through Elon, because Elon is just serving as Trump's handler. All right, being that Elon is being used by the Zionist bankers, the wicked international bankers, all right, biblically known as the Amalekites, all right, the chief family of the Edomites, to perpetuate this monetary collapse, to justify the transition into this new totalitarian technocracy, all right, within this dystopian future where everyone's lives is regulated through that chip, which is the mark of the beast, to replace this plummeting petrodollar within this plummeting U.S. economy. So it's all a part of the World War III algorithm to lead to the mark of the beast, which will eventually lead into this last world's war, which further confirms that we're living these last days. All right, and this is why these protests are prophetic. All right, it is prophesied there would be, sedition amongst men in 2 Ezra 15 and 16. All right, sedition as in uprisings against these wicked, vile, tyrannical, corrupt governments. All right, it's very ironic that Elon, of all people, had mentioned that, George Soros could be behind, pulling the strings of these protests. For the fact that George Soros, has his Open Societies Foundations, Open Society Foundations, which is a movement that he is established. All right, as as a top oligarch, or philanthropist, in the grand scheme of things. All right, as a part of the major players of this satanic NWO. All right, that's been funding a lot of these protests, a lot of these protesting groups, such as Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and so forth. So he could very well be behind it. But either, so if that's true, that just further confirms that, this devil is an unwise king, as it says in Sirach the 10th chapter, to leak that information. All right, because it says in Psalm 64 and 8, their tongues shall befall themselves, roughly paraphrasing. Because meaning what? When you have the characteristics of being a habitual pathological liar, you have to keep up with those lies. So it's ironic that he mentioned that, because that George Soros can be behind this. But either way, whether that's the case or not, all right, these protests are prophetic. All right, I just wanted to point that out, real quick. regarding the irony of Elon mentioning George Soros potentially being behind these protests. But getting back to, this article, bring out a couple, bring out some information here. It says more than 1,000 protests against President Donald Trump and Elon are planned for Saturday in cities across all 50 states, with several international cities taking part, marking the first major demonstration against Trump in his second term. All right. It says the hands-off protests will stretch across the country on what organizers have dubbed the National Day of Action, targeting Trump and Musk's brazen power grab. The hands-off movement was organized by groups including Indivisible, Move On, Women's March, and more, with many advocacy organizations joining as partners. All right. Demonstrations are expected to attract high-profile speakers, including multiple members of Congress, civil rights leaders, and former federal employees fired amid the Department of Government Efficiency's mass layoffs. Now, let me bring this out here. It says the protest will mark the largest demonstration against Trump during his second term so far, echoing protests that took place throughout his first term, including the Women's March in 2017, which attracted millions of protesters. Now let's jump down to around his mark here. Let me see here to the end of the article. Yeah, it says, tangent. Trump's second term has already faced protests nationwide, though none as large as organized as hands-off. Many protests have directly targeted Musk, including the Tesla Takedown movement, which has consisted of peaceful protests against the Tesla CEO and Doge chief, as well as instances of vandalism unrelated to the Tesla takedown protests that have targeted Tesla vehicles, right? Because these Tesla protesters, have been, calling for people to sell their Tesla vehicles and dump the company stock of Tesla, as a further, as a part of the further part of the resistance efforts against Trump's, immoral decrees, as is prophesied in Isaiah 10:1. All right, being his policies and war provocations, all right, including which part of that, those attempted, attempted acts of resistance, in the case of the Tesla, quote unquote, Tesla takedown protests, these people have been looking to, economically weaken Elon, okay, all right, by opposing, his Tesla company, by looking to influence people to once again sell their Tesla vehicles and dump the company stock of Tesla. And really, the efforts of these people is actually null and void for the fact that they're just really begging. They're begging the devil to stop being a devil, by begging for his validation, which is counterproductive because Esau was created to be the devil. And this further confirms these people are carnal, naturally minded people, which further confirms that they're faithless, because if they were in tune with the prophecies, they wouldn't be out there protesting, whether they were set up by the government or just reprobate civilians who, have spiritually invested, in America, Babylon the Great, a sinking ship. So let's segue over to this similar article. It's actually a video.
I feel like we're the first ones on the chopping block, but it's going to come down the line. I mean, we know where it's headed. I feel it in my gut, and it's very apparent where we're headed. 50 protests, 50.
Yeah, these people, it's apparent where we're headed, quote unquote, as she said, okay, which is an economic collapse. And they think that protest is going to possibly prevent that, okay? Which further confirms that, they've been given over to a reprobate mind, all right?
States in one day.
And really, by being blinded by the spiritual demon Shaitan, as it says in 2 Corinthians, the 4th chapter, all right, around the 4th verse, how these people, the vast majority of the people of the world have been blinded by the spiritual demon Shaitan, all right? Because ironically, they think they're doing the Lord's work, but they're really, in this spiritual warfare, it's the contrary. Because they're doing the Lord's work, they be in the spirit of prophecy, okay? Studying the scriptures, being in tune with the prophecies, praying to the true power, okay? The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all right? The God of the scriptures, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, all right?
All to protest the Trump administration and the president's latest orders.
Worried about trans rights being taken away. I'm worried that he will make it such that we can't get women's rights to reproductive health back.
Protesting for democracy. So I do not like what is happening.
This comes as Trump signed an executive order Wednesday banning transgender women from female sports.
Good. This is just a recommendation. Okay. We recommend the intake to the military.
I have a transgender son. My kids are pansexual. We want access and equality across the board for everyone.
The hundreds of people rallying at the state capitol in Salem made various arguments, some addressing the president's recent statements on taking over Gaza.
Terrified, and I hate hearing about what he's going to do to Gaza. I mean, the man is a maniac.
Again this Wednesday by another federal judge.
Him and his administration has continuously called the Mexican, Latino, immigrant community criminals.
Republican lawmakers like Christine Drazen says she's grateful people were out and able to make themselves heard, but she says what the president is doing is what people voted for.
We are engaging in the initial stages of the President of the United States pursuing the agenda that he told the American people he was going to pursue when he got elected, and that we are going to see that agenda in the coming months.
As for people's concerns over immigration, Drazen says Trump's crackdown is needed, but others say
The administration isn't only targeting who they say they are.
We need federal intervention to take the people that are trafficking people, that have forced labor across our state in some of these criminal activities. We need someone to intervene and protect them.
It's very apparent that many of the individuals that are getting picked up in these raids have I'm not saying all, but many of them don't have criminal records.
The rally remained peaceful, and as you can see again, this is still quieter than what we saw earlier today around 12 o'clock when this all kicked off. Oregon State Police confirmed that they've made 0 arrests today. David?
I feel like...
Yeah, Salakia for the repetition in the video. I'm getting an oil change. But, yeah, I'm going to play one more video and close out with a few precepts. Let me see. Actually, I'm going to play a couple more videos. I don't write this out. Let me get this, one here. So, local KTSM video of local El Pasoans taking part in this nationwide hands-off protest, which is ironic because, as an El Paso native, I'm so used to, seeing Jake docile down here. A good number of these people are not Israelites. But it's ironic to see, more protests. Because the last time I saw a protest was around, the whole, Hamas, the whole pro-Hamas madness. You know what I'm saying? And people are just, ignorant protesters out there, whether set up by the government or not. But it just further confirms that even in a small border/military town such as El Paso, witnessing, these protests is another indication that prophecy is further manifesting, man, and that's a joy. That's a further faith booster that we are almost home. Okay, as we draw closer and closer to the end of Esau's rulership, these people are going to continue to bug out. All right, and further display their faithlessness. Because once again, if they were truly faithful, if they were truly faithful, you know what I'm saying, they would be in tune with the word, studying the prophecies, inquiring, seeking inquisition from the prophets on the highways and the hedges, and ultimately hastening the coming of the day of the Lord, Yahweh Shai, to put an end to this madness, this wickedness in the earth. All right, play this video.
Wait, use the shovel and bucket of water, remember? Drown, stir, drown, feel.
Turn it on.
SmokyBerry.com. Don't want to start a wildfire, right?
Only you can bring the light check first and turn your lights on.
And tonight, with growing protests across the country, including right here in El Paso, as demonstrators push back against the Trump administration. This was the scene earlier today at Sunland Park Drive in Mesa Hills, where hundreds gathered to demonstrate. Our crew on scene estimates around 300 people took part in this rally. And the El Paso County Democratic Party says the purpose of today's protest is to unite voices in an urgent call to President Trump to, quote, get his hands off our government. A message protesters on the ground echoed earlier today.
And then for the next step, I'm gonna have you hit the gas, hold it for 10 seconds at around 2,000 RPM. I do need to go downstairs first, okay? I'll let you know when you hit it. After the countdown, you're gonna let it go and then shut it.
Participants here in El Paso say they're shining a light on the impact of President Trump's recent decisions, including tariffs that they claim are driving up the cost for goods and services as reflected in the stock market downturn. The local Democratic Party calls this part of a larger national movement for accountability and transparency in leadership. We did reach out to the El Paso Republican Party, and they sent KTSM a statement saying in part, quote, El Paso City is following the typical Democrat tax and spend. So is the county.
That is where they should be protesting. This protest is a waste of time, end quote.
This is 2nd Ezra, chapter 15 and 16. I'm going to start at verse 14, and it reads, Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Give me 1 second.
It's the new oil, sir.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, getting a call right now, Salakia. I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb, so Salakia. Let this call pass, and I'm going to bring out a few more precepts. In 2nd Ezra 15 and 14, it says, Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and destruction draweth nigh. Woe meaning war. All right, destruction. All right, give me 1 second. Wrap up this oil change.
Military by any chance?
Pardon me?
Military by any chance?
Oh, no.
No? All right. Just a regular oil change today after taxes, 52.17. Card?
Yeah.
I'll have you sign here first.
Okay.
You can hit email or print for your receipt. You can go ahead and take it. Just get a couple seconds. Let me see. It's gonna ask for your PIN. Take your card back. And did you get a new sticker for the window yet?
I know.
I got you.
Salakia, 1 second, Baba Kashah.
I'll take that.
Okay. Thanks.
Nope.
All right.
And you're all set, okay?
All right, thank you. Oh, I forgot to ask you. Hey, can you inflate my tires and add the power steering fluid?
Oh yeah, of course. Can you pop the hood?
Sure. All right, Salakia. The oil change went a little quicker than I anticipated, but I'm going to finish this out. This 2nd Ezra 15 and 14 says, Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. All right, with a lot of their swords, weapons, firearms, and other weapons of mass destruction. All right, in the case of civilians, you're going to have modern day swords, as in firearms and drones and so forth. It says, here's a point in verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. All right, and sedition once again are uprisings. All right, including political uprisings against these wicked, corrupt governments. This is Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2. It says, When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Okay. So people are mourning right now, and in case of these protests, it's another form of mourning. All right, it further confirms that an unwise king, the unfit ruler of the earth, prophesied in Sirach the 10th chapter, okay, is ruling the same wicked hands the earth was given into, and that's the Edomites. All right. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and get to that. Sirach 10 and 1. It says, a wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As a judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. All right. So, the rulers of the darkness of this world are satanic reprobates, okay, unbelievers. And really, so are the servants, that follow after their satanic counsel, or their example through their satanic counsel, all right, through Esau's wine, all right, his modern day, Western philosophy, but modern day wine of fornication being that Western philosophy, including the democracy, the politics, what I'm saying, the technology, so forth, okay. So this is why, these protesters are wasting their time, man, as that a pastor politician pointed out. Sirach 10 and 3 says, an unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which in authority, the city shall be inhabited. And prudence, is a synonym for wisdom. All right. And these people don't have that. They don't have the true divine spiritual wisdom from the heavens. Okay. Case in point. They have worldly wisdom. That's why they go out there and protest. Why? Because they're of the world. So I'm going to play this last video. Just a few seconds of this last video on this platform. ITM Trading Incorporated by Daniela Carbodi. I believe she's Italian. And Daniela Camboni, and her interview with the former Colonel Douglas McGregor. All right, I'm gonna bring out what she mentioned. The price is low. And fair use.
After interviewing the
we're just shooting targets everywhere, all at once, sending the world into a kind of trauma. But it's telling the world we're a problem. We're dangerous.
One more point before I move on to Europe. Because I hear everything you're saying. And if we listen to President Trump, since day one, he said he wants peace. He doesn't want America involved in wars. But on the other side of the equation, like you're saying, we see this talk of, I want Greenland, I want Canada. Almost like running a Roman Empire once again. So where's the truth?
Well, Danielle,
whatever she said, around at 10 seconds.
Equation, like you're saying, we see this talk of, I want Greenland, I want Canada. Almost like running a Roman Empire once again. So
that's spiritual, because I did a lesson on that, further bringing that out, further confirming that America, modern day America, is America is modern day Rome, and being that America is a splitting image of the fourth beast empire, as in a pagan Roman Empire. All right. Thank you. All right, I'm just wrapping up this oil change. All right, give me 1 second. So I'm going to bring out this last article just to expand on what she was saying, and how Trump's war policy or war provocations in terms of targeting these particular foreign nations such as Greenland, and even the U.S.'s neighboring trader is in Canada, for it reminds her of the efforts or the military efforts of the Roman Empire. So this is on history.com. And it says, under ancient Rome, 8 reasons why Rome fell. I'm going to focus on two sections. All right. Starting with section 5. Entitled Government Corruption and Political Instability. It says, if Rome's sheer size made it difficult to govern, ineffective and inconsistent leadership, only served to magnify the problem. being a Roman emperor had always been a particularly dangerous job, but during the tumultuous 2nd and 3rd centuries, it nearly became a death sentence. Civil war thrust the empire into chaos, and more than 20 men took the throne in a span of only 75 years, usually after the murder of their predecessor. The Praetorian Guard, the emperor's personal bodyguards, assassinated and installed new sovereigns at will, and once even auctioned the spot off to the highest bidder. The political rot also extended to the Roman Senate, which failed to temper the excesses of the emperors due to its own widespread corruption and incompetence. As the situation worsened, civic pride waned and many Roman citizens lost trust in their leadership. And that's exactly what we see now with the example of these protests in modern day Rome, America. Okay. Let me see. Let me jump up to that's pretty much the point. Yeah, I'm gonna get this section here to expand on what she was saying. Verse 4 says, keep saying that. Section 4 says, overexpansion and military overspending. It says, at its height, the Roman Empire stretched from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the Euphrates River in the Middle East. All right, that's interesting. You know, that's because this area here is where, you know, this last World War is set to take place, around this area. All right, around the Gulf of Oman, you know, around the Persian Gulf, or in the biblical area of Yehoshaphat in Joel the 3rd chapter in the Western Asia. It says, but its grandeur may have also been its downfall. With such a vast territory to govern, the empire faced an administrative and logistical nightmare. Even with their excellent road systems, the Romans were unable to communicate quickly or effectively enough to manage their holdings. Rome struggled to marshal enough troops and resources to defend its frontiers from local rebellions and outside attacks. And by the 2nd century, the Emperor Hadrian was forced to build his famous wall in Britain just to keep the enemy at bay. As more and more funds were funneled into the military upkeep of the empire, technological advancement slowed and Rome's civil infrastructure fell into disrepair. Right? They mentioned that they lost their frontiers, or the resources to defend their frontiers from local rebellions and outside attacks, which reminds me of what the former Edomite military general Mark Milley has said, and how he admitted that America's defense systems cannot repel the hypersonic missiles from the likes of China and Russia. So what more so the ICBM missiles? So this further confirms that America is Rome all over again. This is why when shortly after Trump's re-inauguration, Elon went on stage and did the Romano Saluto. He did a salute, all right, which is known as the Romano Saluto that the Romans would do. All right, case in point. He also went on Twitter and admitted that America is Rome all over again in so many words, however he worded it. So this is further confirms that America is Rome all over again. In this place, modern day Rome is going to fall like ancient Rome fell. This is Malachi chapter 1. All right, you know, these doleful creatures, these desert creatures, because no other biological organisms are going to be dwelling in America in terms of mortal human beings, except for these doleful creatures. That's how much of that's how devastating the destruction in the midst of this thermonuclear war, Harmageddon, is going to result. Is going to be. Here's the point in verse 4. It says, whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus said the Lord Yahweh by Shem Yahushua of hosts, they shall build. I had indignation forever. Indignation is righteous anger. You know, the descendants of Esau, these Caucasians, so-called these self-proclaimed white people, these Edomites that proclaim to be white, all right, such as the Puritans did, all right, in the 17th century, all right, for all those whose bloodline derives back to the Edomites, all right, to Esau, Edom, all right, through Britain, through Germany, especially America. All right, those Amalekites over there in the Holy Land, and so forth. All right, this is the this is the impoverished, inhabitations of modern day Edom that's going to be destroyed in the midst of this last World War. All right, by who? Let's go ahead and get that. Shemeshai, and in due time he was set over it one that is profitable. All right, which you know, right, he's going to establish the kingdom of heaven. Okay, you know, which will include our King David ruling over us. Okay, followed by the 144,000 kings of the governing body of the house of David. You know, Adam Ratazah, myself included. Right, Adam Ratazah meaning Lord willing. So this is Sirach 10:10. It says, a physician cutteth off a long disease, and he that is today a king tomorrow shall die. And that physician is Yahweh Shai, the healer. Okay, the deliverer. All right, coming back to end it off on that note, and I pray this epistle is for the edifying, exhorting to elect, and give all praises, glory, and infinite honor to my power, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom is the God of the living. Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Baruch Rash. All right, with that, above the ball, soon and very soon. Shalom, Labachayim, Shabbat Yashidabada, Shai Yasharala, meaning peace to the elect of the house of David, of the nation of Israel, and on to the next one.